Hi everyone, I'm Tim Durling and this is Tim's Vinyl Confessions. On this episode, I'm going to go through my Alice Cooper cassette collection, which is a pretty lengthy discography in any format and not the easiest one to fill out in cassette form. But I think I've got at least all of Alice's studio albums from various sources, various issues, various parts of the world. So we'll get into it. 1969, the debut album from Alice Cooper, Pretty's for You. This is a 1989 Enigma Records reissue. To track down an original Straight Records, distributed by Warner version of this would not be cheap, and I'm perfectly happy with the Enigma reissue. They did a good job with it, and honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of the first couple of Alice albums, so as long as I could have it in some format or another. Now, having said that, I really like the version I found of his second album, Easy Action, or should I say their second album. This is a Canadian issue, probably from the late 70s on Warner Brothers, and a very recognizable if you grew up in Canada buying cassettes. Pretty straightforward looking, this one is. Now, the first big Alice Cooper album, and I think just a fine album all the way through. Love it to death. This is a Canadian reissue on Warner Brothers. Now, I couldn't exactly say when it was reissued, but great album. This does not have the finger cover. It's got the quote-unquote censored cover, but there wasn't anything to censor on it anyway. Another Canadian issue, 1971 Killer. Of course, this is not an original. That's pretty obvious to look at it. Writing's a little bit faded, well, more so on side one than side two. Next up, 1972 School's Out. This is a Canadian reissue. The record is so cool with the desk that opens up. You kind of lose that with cassettes, but it's portable, right? A lot of these, when I picked them up, I'm guessing I picked them up from someone who bought them all at the same time. They look from the same source. Now that's going to change here right away. The next one, 1973, $1 Billion Babies. This is an original Canadian issue on Warner Brothers. You can tell by the way the writing looks, the side of it there. This is an old tape and cassette. Got a sticker on it. Very cool. Glad to find that. I've got something that's kind of even more mind-blowing, and some of you out there might not have even seen one of these. But the next Alice Cooper album also came out in 1973, Muscle of Love. This is a U.S. edition on Warner Brothers. And what is this thing I'm holding? The writing on it's very similar to what you'd expect on a Warner Brothers release. But this is a slipcase. So it's a hard plastic case with stickers with all the information and the album cover and all of that stuff on it. And the tape is held in place through friction, so it won't fall out. You've got to forcibly pull the tape out. Very old tape. I strongly doubt it plays. These went until about the mid 70s, and I've always wanted to grab a hold of one of these. There's some very collectible ones, including one that looks something like this for the first Kiss album when it was on Warner distribution. But yeah, that's a slipcase version of Muscle of Love. 1974 Alice Cooper Greatest Hits. Got to thank my friend Todd for this one, Todd's Analog and More. He sent me this. This is an Australian issue on Warner Brothers. It's kind of a zoomed in photo of the classic cover to the Greatest Hits. The tape looks a little bit different too. So now we're back into the Canadian issues. 1975, Welcome to My Nightmare, Canadian issue on Atlantic, which is all distributed by Warner, so the tapes tend to look a lot the same. That was the only one on Atlantic, right back onto Warner Brothers. Still never quite figured out that whole scene. Another one of my favorites by Alice Cooper Goes to Hell, 1976. This is a Canadian issue on Warner Brothers. Now we're back into some more original looking tapes. 1977, Lace and Whiskey. This is an old Canadian version on Warner Brothers. Again, with the sticker on it. Pretty cool. One of my least favorite live albums of all time, but I had to have it, part of the collection. 1977, The Alice Cooper Show. This is a Canadian issue on Warner Brothers. For some reason, much bigger printing on this. 1978, From the Inside, another Canadian issue on Warner Brothers. This is Alice's yacht rock album, although the same maybe could be said for Lace and Whiskey, but this one especially. I'm not kidding. 1980, one of my favorite Alice Cooper albums, not the easiest one to find. I've got a US copy that's a little worse for the wear, Flush the Fashion. A little faded there in the middle. Some of the song titles are hard to read. I'd replace this one if I could find a better copy of it, but again, it's not the easiest thing to find. The tape's pretty beaten up. One that's even harder to find is 1981's Special Forces. Extremely hard to find. So much so that I settled for what I'm pretty sure is it's counterfeit. It's got to be a counterfeit. That's a zoomed in picture of the portrait that's on the front cover. It's not the full cover. It's on this GJS, a non-existent label, and doesn't really say where it's from. I got to thank, though, a friend of mine on Instagram who goes by the name Alice Cooper Collector. This guy's got everything. So I had asked him if he had a spare of Special Forces, and he said no. It took him forever to find an old US copy or whatever. But when he saw this come up on eBay, he let me know. He said, hey, it's a placeholder. I said, yeah, you know what, you're right. And another thing that marks this is, well, put this in the interesting category. It's actually got the song Look at You Over There Ripping the Sawdust from My Teddy Bear. Besides being unspeakably fun to say, this song was listed on the original vinyl issue of Special Forces, but didn't actually appear on the album. People didn't get to hear what that song sounded like until his Life and Crimes box set came out in 1999. I think this is a fun album too. I love this period analysis career, but I mean, look at that. This is not a legitimate cassette. And like I said, I'm still looking to find a legit, Warner Brothers version of it. That's the only one that's sort of a questionable, vintage. 1982, Zipper Catches Skin. This is an old Canadian edition on Warner with the Warner Brothers sticker on it. Not so easy to find. And it's still got the cream-colored cassettes right before they switched to the black ones with the screws in them, or shortly before. 1983, the last Alice album on Warner Brothers, Dada, Canadian issue, with the famous Super cassette, and like a lot of WEA cassettes that came out in Canada in 1983, 1984, there's a picture down here in the middle. This is that little picture of Alice and whoever that guy is from the back cover of the record. Very strange record. Yeah, it's not a good time in Alice's personal life. A little bit of credits in this one, not much. It's a very strange album. I do like some of it though. Cream-colored cassette again. 3-year gap before the next Alice album. He got completely clean and sober. Signed MCA Records. Put this out, Constrictor, Canadian version on MCA. First of 2 MCA albums. And not much in it for credits, just a single page of credits. Followed it right up, 1987. Raise Your Fist and Yell, another MCA, another Canadian copy. I think there's a little more to the credits this time around. Yes, this has credits and lyrics, although they're printed very, very small. Big comeback for Alice, of course, 1989. He teams up with Desmond Child and co-writes a bunch of songs, and Desmond Child produces. He signs to Epic Records, and his first platinum album in 13 years, Trash, of course, mostly known for the song Poison, which was one of Alice's biggest singles. This is a Canadian Columbia House issue. Tape's a little faded. Yeah, this is really like kids my age, this is really when Alice came on a lot of our radar. Lyrics and credits. And in so typical fashion of record companies, MCA immediately, later on in '89, sticks out this compilation called Prince of Darkness. It's kind of cool cover. It's Alice as a playing card. It's just songs from Constrictor and Raise Your Fist and Yell and a live version of $1 Billion Babies. Not much of any interest on here, really, except for the collector like me that tries to have everything, right? As the song goes, don't you wish you had it all? One of my favorite albums by Alice, 1991, his second album for Epic, Hey Stupid. I personally think this is a much better album than Trash from start to finish. It's better produced. I think the songs are better overall. I do like Trash, but I love this album. This is a Canadian Columbia House issue. This one's got all the pictures, lyrics, credits, pretty much everything that was in the CD and the record, just in a smaller form. Next one I've got to show you, I actually only have on cassette right now. It's not a period of Alice's career I'm huge on, but in early 1992, Rhino Records put out, sorry, no, not Rhino Records, Bizarre Records put this out. Alice Cooper Live at the Whiskey, 1969, which is exactly what it sounds like. So it's all Levity Ball and 10 Minutes Before the Worm and, you know, those odd little songs from the first couple of Alice albums. You know, Nobody Likes Me, and stuff like that. Pretty good liner notes in it, you know, and I know there are people that like this phase of Alice's career and really don't like anything else, but anyway, this is just something I kind of had to have. Another fine album, 1994, the last one he did for Epic, The Last Temptation. This is a Canadian retail copy on Epic. Some great songs on here. Didn't do very well, unfortunately. You know, the Alice's talent, song, and great songwriting and all of that pales, like his album sales pale in comparison to the greatness of the music. There was a comic book that tied into this, and there's a few panels from that in here by Neil Gaiman. This would be the last Alice studio album for 6 years. I don't know if it was a lay low while he switches labels, I'm not sure. In 1995, Sony put out this compilation called Classics, which is actually kind of useful for the, you know, the newer Alice Cooper fan. It's got the best of the 3 Sony albums, CBS albums, and live versions of the classics from his home video, Alice Cooper Trashes the World, that he did in London. I think it was in London. So it's got, you know, it's got Poison, House of Fire, Hey Stupid, Lost in America, but it's also got No More Mr. Nice Guy, School's Out, I'm 18, Only Women Bleed. Like, it's got, you know, it's a little bit of both. And they're good live versions, too. It's not like they stuck on some crappy live versions. This CD is actually the first thing I ever had by Alice, and the only thing I had from him for many years. I mean, there's not much in it. Just a little bit of the credits and where they came from. After that, 1997, next thing to come out, Alice, it's the only thing he put out on Guardian Records, which was distributed by EMI, I think. It's a live album, A Fistful of Alice. I should talk more about this cover here in a second. This is a US version. Really good band on here, and this was actually recorded at Sammy Hagar's Cabo Wabo Cantina. You can't really see it that well on the cassette version as opposed to the CD, but that background, yeah, you don't see it all. That's a Hugh Syme album cover, and he reused some of that visual on the inner sleeve of Rush's Snakes and Arrows, if you want to compare. Next studio album came out in 2000. I don't know if there were US cassettes made up. He was on Eagle, BMG at this point for a fantastic album called Brutal Planet. And this is, I think, is a Russian version. Sealed. Not going to open it. And the same goes for 2001's Dragon Town. The 2 albums are very similar to each other. And as far as I know, the newest Alice Cooper studio album that exists on cassette is 2003's The Eyes of Alice Cooper. And again, this is another Russian version on Eagle, BMG. Am I missing anything? Did he put any cassettes out after that? Let me know. And thanks for watching Tim's Final Confessions.